People whose first relationship was very long term. What weird thing did you believe was normal until you started seeing other people? This is morbid, but I thought it was normal to argue every day. I thought all couples have their bickering, and it was just a regular thing. I was astounded when I went into my next relationship and actually got on with a guy and went weeks and weeks without having any issues. It always felt like the bubble was going to burst. Goes to show, don't stay in a relationship just because you've already invested a ton of time. You get one life. Spend it with someone who makes you laugh every day. My parents' relationship was like this. When I met my current partner, I told him I would never get married because I don't see the point in being stuck in an argument for the rest of my life. His response was, okay, well, if we communicate, I don't see why we would be always arguing. I didn't get it and didn't want to get into it. One day we were communicating and the conversation was intense. Not even arguing / raised voices. And he said, let's take a break from this. I'm feeling frustrated. And I just sat there dumbfounded like, what? You aren't gonna yell at me? Glad you found each other. I thought most guys liked having their nipples played with because my first ex did. My second boyfriend was so confused when I started licking his titty mayo. I texted my then new girlfriend about where I was and who I was with about every 30 minutes. After the third time, she told me that she didn't need to get updates on what I was doing and to just let her know when I got home safe. I remember feeling almost a physical weight being lifted off my chest because I didn't have to worry about my girlfriend freaking out if I didn't update her. I learned what trust felt like that night. I'm actually amazed at how many married couples are this way. I just thought it was common sense to trust your spouses doing what they said they were doing. No point in being crazy until there is a reason to be. In the words of my shrink, worrying doesn't change the outcome. It applies in a lot of situations. People's love languages are all different. It's especially jarring when you have a lot of experience doing things a certain way, and then finding out that isn't what somebody else needs. It can take some work to figure out what's inherent to yourself and what was learned from your partner. This is super valid, and I feel like it applies to other types of relationships too. Just a NSFW remark. Her father hating me. I just thought this was normal. But in the subsequent 3 relationships, last one turning into a marriage and family, the parents were kind, and I couldn't believe that is possible. Sorry, I don't have any NSFW things. All the girls were very open to experiments. This is a little strange, I guess. Sort of an individual thing. But, with my first 2 relationships, 5 years total between the 2, I never realized how cuddly I am. I used to hate being touched or kissed, and I never realized that wasn't just the way I was. I even thought I might be asexual, but deep down I knew that wasn't the case. My fiancé used to be the same way, but when we met, somehow things just clicked into place. I'm the same way. I used to hate all signs of physical affection, but now with a romantic partner I can't get enough of it. I've done a lot of reflecting on this aspect of myself, and the best conclusion I can come to is the fact that my parents never showed me physical affection. I didn't think much about it until one of my exes described how much he used to love family cuddle piles while watching movies together. I sort of thought it was normal to have parents/siblings that never hugged/ kissed/ cuddled/ pet you, but now I'm not so sure. I would lick the side of my first girlfriend's face like a dog and she loved it. My second girlfriend slapped me when I tried it. For me, you won the competition here. That some girls in a relationship don't like to kiss as often as others. I'm just talking about pecs, when I/GF gets home, etc. I always enjoyed a hello kiss, but I guess some girls don't. r/herpes_free_ since _73 with a username like that I would have also been a little hesitant to get a peck. Why? They've literally said they haven't had an issue in almost 50 years. Maybe it's herpes. Free since 73. It wasn't super long term. Only about a year, but when you're in high school that's fairly long term. My ex was a very clingy dude. Sweet, but would follow me around every social gathering and get jealous of me spending time with my friends. When I started dating the guy who is now my husband, I remember looking around at a party early on of mostly my friends that he hadn't met before, and I couldn't find him. I asked someone where he was, and he was out by the fire with a group of people chatting and hanging out. I was astonished that we could just go our separate ways in a social setting, and that was totally fine. We didn't have to be attached at the hip the whole time. As a clingy guy trying to not be, what would you say is the appropriate amount of time to be with your partner v friends at a party? Don't think of it as appropriate amount of time. If you are hanging out and chatting along with your girl, that's cool. But if you are just standing there while she is talking, that is being clingy. Also depends on the setting. If you're at a party where you know everyone and she doesn't know very many people, it may not be appropriate to leave her alone at all. It doesn't hurt anyone to talk about it first. If both know everyone at the party, split up and trust each other. That every time was essentially a quickie, almost a whole decade of nothing but 5 thrusts, and then blast off. After that relationship ended, I felt like Jasmine on a magic carpet ride, a whole new world. Peter, we just had sex. Tell M. Bonnie, yes, we had what Joe considers sex. She made me believe the old TV tropes of women never wanting sex. I had to work my ass off to get her to give me some action. The next girl I had was just fucking amazed that I didn't just ask for it when I wanted it. The bewildered look on her face when she finally asked, "You realize I'm horny too, right?" Man, that hits too close to home for me. Hopefully not too close to home. I tried to change her. That was my emotional insecurity. My bad, Melissa. You're not my ex. But my name is Melissa. I still have to regularly deal with my ex who maintains that our loan was the cause for the demise of our relationship. Seeing this was weirdly cathartic. That sex should last more than 45 seconds. I dated a guy for a year and never orgasmed once. He gaslit me into believing that the slight good feeling I felt, like 2 to 3 stages before coming, was what an orgasm was. I never understood why some girls were so into sex, because it was so unsatisfying for me. The next guy I slept with showed me what orgasming actually feels like. He actually told me once, if you want it to feel good for you, you have to be on top and set the rhythm for what works for you. Keep in mind, I was 18 and naive and inexperienced. He was 36, and totally took advantage of that. Who up? Man, if someone with that nickname comments "who up" on your sex life, something's up. My ex basically taught me that it wasn't okay for me to be upset about things. Every time I would get my feelings hurt, even when I was upset about something completely unrelated to him, it was somehow flipped around. So I ended up reassuring and comforting him. That shit really messed me up, and I basically had to relearn how to be vulnerable with my so. He also had a very solid plan of how he expected me to live my life. Basically his main goal for me was to have kids and be a good housewife. Yikes. On the bright side, nowadays I'm happily engaged and my fiance treats me with so much love and respect. He's supportive of my dreams and we are able to lean on each other in times of hardship. He was extremely well endowed. We dated from middle school into college and I wasn't much for porn at the time, so while I knew it was large, that's what I just thought large penises looked like. Turns out something like that is so rare it's even hard to find in porn. Also, turns out 6 wasn't supposed to a ridiculous challenge either. Somewhere, someone has the exact opposite version of this story. Definitely true. Some people just have extremely large vaginas. A lot of girls like to fuck. I left a GF of 3 years. A girl I thought I was going to marry. Over this, she just had an almost zero sex drive. Even from the beginning, she thought 3 to 4 times a year was plenty. In the end, I decided life was too short to have sex once every 4 months, and dealt with over a year of heartbreak, instead of a lifetime of craving sex I wouldn't get. Before I left, I remember trying to soothe myself with, "Hey, once you are like 70, it won't even matter." My ex-husband always turned me down when I wanted sex. We only had sex when he wanted, once or twice a year. Your partner should actually make an effort to spend time with you. You shouldn't have to surprise them to spend any time with them. This makes me sad. Being cowed into an open arrangement equals normal. Him introducing me to friends while hanging out or going to parties, and then him telling me later in the evening after the ice had broken that they were actually the girl he was fucking. capitulating to his insistence that we continue to hang out, even though I was uncomfortable with knowing this new information. Equals normal, him making unwelcome and uncomfortable comments to other women I was friends with in front of me to attempt to orchestrate threesomes that I was not okay with. Normal. If you love me, you'll chase after me. Equals normal. If you love me, you'll leave FaceTime up at all times, so I can see what's going on in your dorm. Equals normal. If you love me, you will not show any sad or mad emotion, because it ruins my mood. Equals normal. OMG, totally forgot about that you're responsible for my mood, but I'm not responsible for yours. The logic of these people. Porn is not a documentary, being used as a sex doll, contorted into uncomfortable positions, and pounded until you bleed, can't stand up, or just break down crying from the pain isn't normal, nor is anal sex a necessity. We were both virgins, and he had major porn brain. I thought I was bad at 6, and would never be able to have a positive experience with intimacy, until I finally left him, and was with my second boyfriend. I'm okay now. But wow, was that a horrible person, to lose my virginity to. This actually made me feel physically ill. Psychological abuse. I have a physical reaction now, when my current partners are nice to me. When I do something he would have berated me for hours, and locked me in my room for, like. I get a panic attack, because my partners are nice to me. When I drop a glass, or got laid off, or forgot to unload the dishwasher, and then they don't bring it up every time they're irritated with me. My ex was still yelling at me 14 years later for shit I did when we first started dating. Shit like I forgot to pick up his laundry from the floor, or bought the wrong brand of bacon. At the end there, the lectures lasted hours as he recounted 14 years of offenses. My current partners, they don't throw shit in my face that I did the day before. The dissonance is crazy. I knew the other abuse wasn't normal, but my stepdad is the same way with my mom. So I had no idea, I just thought it's how men are. I can relate. I didn't even realize that was a kind of abuse, because I grew up with it. My ex put her happiness on me, making it my responsibility, would demand I stay around, and cut my work hours back, and then be upset when we wouldn't have money to go out. Every time I would try and leave I was coerced with sex to stay, because I was young and stupid. After 8 years I had enough. I moved 5 states away, had a chain of bad relationships that ended. Took some time to work on myself, and am now engaged to an amazing woman I can communicate with, share feelings about issues, and who values a healthy relationship. Damn, you went straight to polygamy. Good on you, dude. I straight up snorted, I won't even lie. He had a birth defect which left him with 2 holes in the tip of his penis. I thought one was for pee and the other was for sperm. My next boyfriend was very confused when I asked him why he only had 1 hole. Haha, this is actually funny. A lot of these responses are extremely dark. Suicide threats, black eyes, self-harm manipulation, social media and phone stalking rights, remove female friends from social media plus life. Sex as a currency. Must respond to texts within 20 minutes or the result is one or more of the above. Finally got out of that one after 3 long years. Learned a whole lot. Helped to build my now very strong relationship though, so hey, take the positive and leave the rest, am I right? Wow, we must have had the same ex. Glad you got out of that situation. It's a stressful trap to say the least. Actually thinking about the future was a big thing. Since we got together in high school there always seemed to be this idea in the back of my head that this was going to end eventually, and because of that I never really looked at anything like a future together. When we graduated it was just too comfortable to break up, and even though things were fine enough to stay, it was a drag that never ended, because I just never really thought of them as the person I wanted to be with forever. It's hard to say when exactly I stopped loving her, but it was a relationship of comfort and convenience more than anything. And when she eventually cheated on me and broke us up, it was still just so easy to get back together on and off after that I could feel myself falling back into a commitment I didn't want to be a part of. Now it's wild to actually think about a future with my partner. I genuinely look forward to stuff like maybe living together, or getting married, and seeing the world and all that romantic stuff. Before everything was more or less convenience, but I had no idea how great it was to actually look forward to potential life events with someone else. Everything until the cheating part described my exact relationship with this girl. I just broke it off. Despite warnings and such from mutual friends and my own social circle alike, I stuck with my first long-term girl because I thought she was just sassy and fiery and that I needed to man up and deal with it. The mutual interests held things together for a good while, especially the Zelda games and Bethesda RPGs up to Skyrim, and our bedroom preferences meshed insanely well, but her attitude wound up being the deal breaker. Pretty sure she was undiagnosed bipolar in hindsight, because forget about mood swings, this woman would go from snuggling and a movie type mood to giving love a craption out to God's nightmares at a moment's notice. My last chat with her went not great. She got a shitty attitude over me suggesting she stick with a game she was playing of all things, so I had 3 people read it and tell me what they thought, because I just wanted outside opinions from unbiased people instead of assurances from friends in the know. To called her a cunt to paraphrase their insults and far from kind words, and one, the sweetest person I'd ever known, finished reading the exchange and just hugged me, burying her face in my right shoulder, and my brain just, man, it all just clicked. I wasn't a tough guy enduring a rough patch, because all relationships have difficulties. I was in a bad relationship. I felt her tears on my shoulder and my eyes started watering. We cried a bit together, then went and got ice cream. I learned the real manning uppies when you stand up and decide to make your life better and not just sit there and tank abuse like some idiot slab of beef in a D&D group. Still haven't spoken to me's shitty attitude since. For the doctors chiming in, you can diagnose the train wreck that was this chick's mental disorders all you want, but don't expect much in the way of discussion from me about it. Mostly because my medically ignorant ass is, well, not too knowledgeable about such stuff. Third person is the friend I aspire to be. I want to meet good friends like this. Abuse. I thought occasional abuse was just, you know, part of the mix of things. Sometimes you get good times. Sometimes you get attacked. I was just lucky I was big, so she couldn't do much damage. I felt for other guys who probably had it way worse. It was eye-opening to find out random physical attacks weren't just part of the excitement. Girls be crazy, right? Everybody knows that. Emotional, and you know, they beat you and draw blood sometimes. Ha, whatever. My friend had a very similar story. I was driving him home. He had recently had a fight with his girlfriend, again, after multiple incidents of his belongings being intentionally broken, and even her pulling a knife on him. And yes, she was his first serious relationship. I'm sorry, but you really need to get out of this. This isn't okay. Well, sometimes this stuff happens. No relationship is perfect. My parents fought all the time, and still stuck together. You gotta work on it. My mom got punched by her ex-husband exactly once, and divorced him over it. 2 years later she met my dad, and in the following 35 years they've barely even raised their voices against each other. He got real quiet. Ultimately he moved to another city, to cut off contact from her completely, and is a changed person now. Lot happier. Glad you talked to him. So many wouldn't. So many don't feel like they can, or that's it okay. And so many people would get offended, or wouldn't listen, if you did talk. Glad you talked to him. My first GF used to squirt. Nothing to do with me, that's just how she was. After say, 5 minutes of foreplay she'd be squirting all over the place. And then for the rest of the session she'd be extremely wet. Fast forward to my next relationship. I was like, damn, you broke. Was fingering her profusely, doing all sorts of things, and was getting frustrated because I thought she wasn't into me, or I was doing something wrong. I found out I was a squirter years after dating people. Started for me when I was like 24. 22 for me. The guy just asked if I was. I said no. He tried and voila. It would not have crossed my mind at that point. And then he continued across the land, giving girls their first squirt everywhere he went. Johnny squirts a seed. What a hero. Wait, not everyone wants commitment. I always look to the future. It was nice that the guys I dated in between my long relationships were kind enough to break it off when they realized what I was really after though. Don't know. Never saw anyone else. Married her. Thank you for this glimmer of happiness in an otherwise depressing thread. Well, this thread turned out quite a bit darker than I had hoped.